think, because I like to have it on paper. Hang on.
No, I like the chair. The chair's lovely. No, the chair's lovely.
I'm trying to decide whether that angle is better or that picture. If I could just like narrow it in a bit.
Have you seen one of these ones?
Yeah, I've got one of those.
Esther, before Rachel says important things, shall I show you my new amp pop? It's really cool.
Oh, that's fun.
No, it hangs up.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's a good job I've got no plants in behind me, because you look like you've got to like plants if you inactivate. Basically, have you dyed your hair, Esther?
No, honestly, the lights on this camera is so weird.
It looks so red, like it looks like you've dyed it like really lovely, like it looks really nice. Freak you out now, and you're going to go and put a ton of sun in it.
I'm going to go put some sun in.
Not from the 80s, sun in from the 80s.
Hi everybody, we're just coming on today to discuss a bit about how we're feeling about the end of lockdown and the roadmap towards sort of freedom, really. And we were talking about it the other day and just felt like it might be nice to share our conversation with you, so that you might feel kind of like there's other people who feel the same way. We were noticing that at the start of lockdown, there was this sort of sense, wasn't there, of we've all got to get loads of help to make our home offices work really productively, and we all need to work out how are we going to do our daily walks and where are we going to go and who are we going to go with. And it was all kind of like regimented for us, and it was a kind of like a safe, you can do it because it's all within a bubble, wasn't it? And then all of a sudden now we get this sort of sense of we're coming out of it, and there's this roadmap. And for people who like to be slightly in control, we start panicking because we think, oh, we need to understand, like, what are we going to do on that day?
Rachel, you trying to say we like to be in control?
I do, but I think we all do a bit, because you sort of get, especially if you've got other people reliant on you being the party organizer, you kind of feel like, when am I going to take the kids on their first holiday, and when am I going to take them to their grandparents, and when are we going to be allowed to have kids over to play? And so you kind of get this panic of, I don't want to be like missing the boat, because everyone's going to have booked things and everyone's going to have taken up like all the car parks in every beauty spot in the whole country. So you kind of feel like you've got to keep up. So we just thought, even if you're feeling exhausted after this whole year of being at home, maybe homeschooling, maybe you've been working from home and juggling the kids at home as well, whatever it's been, either that or you've been totally bored and isolated and really feeling lonely and you want to get back out, we kind of wanted to talk about how we're feeling. And I have noticed a lot more older people out on big walks and meeting up and saying hi to each other, and it's been nice to see them suddenly able people, once they've had their vaccine, there's a lightness, isn't there? So there's a real hope. So we want to embrace it and work out how can we go into this new season. So I know, Rhiannon, you were telling me a story about the lambs that you'd been talking about.
Oh yeah, this was really good. I was on a walk with my friend Debbie, and she was telling me about one of the sermons that was in her church quite a few months ago. Probably was back in September. But it's one of those stories that, you know, it sticks in your head and then you like replay it all the time. And she talked about, the pastor talked about how we're going to come out of lockdown, how we're going to transition from being quite tight on our restrictions, what we can and can't do, and then having this sudden freedom and how we're going to cope mentally and physically. And he said it was a bit like spring and the lambs coming out. So the lambs were all born in a nice, safe little barn. And like we feel sometimes, like you said before, in our bubbles, we all feel quite safe in our barns. Yeah. And then he said some lambs will just, the doors will be open on that very first date we're allowed out, and they will run into the field and they'll be jumping over everyone and they'll be knocking into people, and they just won't care because they just want to get out, get their dairies full and be doing as much stuff as possible. And he said other people be more like a quiet lamb who'll be like, the doors open and then they sort of look through and go, what's it going to be like, and tentatively, slowly go out into the field, you know, meet one lamb or see one new experience at a time, but be quite frightened of it. And he said some of us will need a farmer to boot us out of the actual barn because we've got so safe and comfortable inside this sort of this bubble of, I feel safe in the house, I feel safe with this 2-3 people, I now, after watching the news all the time and seeing so much stuff and seeing things in a negative way, that I'm actually quite frightened of going out. And he said some people have to be like literally forced out of the barn. And I thought, that's such a good analogy, because that's what I feel like. Sometimes I feel like I want to put everything in my diary straight away and I'm really excited. Other times I think, right, I'm only going to meet my mum and dad and I'm only going to meet family. And then other times I think, right, I'm just going to stay at home with my family and I'm not going to change anything at all, because there's been lots about lockdown that I have actually liked. And there's routines and things I've put in place in lockdown that I thought, I want these in my life post what we've done. So I just, that analogy, I was talking to my friend Debbie, and it's just stayed with me. And I've probably quoted it really wrong from the actual vicar that actually said it, but that's what it's like in my head. And I just love it, because I think, I don't know, what do you feel? What type of lamb do you feel like, Rach?
I think I'm a mixture. Some days I feel like I can't wait to get out, but mostly I'm definitely I think I'm the cautious one. I think you forget when you've gone through family life and different things, you kind of forget what you actually are like. So we're going to talk about that a bit later, about who do we actually want to be like? What do we want to be like?
This reminds me of the little baby that came in on the news. Remember, ages ago, the mum was there trying to pull it back out.
She should stay in though, because she's so.
I just have to crop this bit out.
Cute words.
So no, I don't really know, but I am the lamb that is probably a bit more cautious. But then once I'm in the group, once I've come out with the group, I'll be fine. I think I'm the kind of person who can be more extroverted already in a group, and I'm fine with that. But I might not be as much the gatherer as I was. I don't know.
What about you, Est? What do you feel?
I'm definitely the lamb that is going to need a boot. Like, you know, I do just fear. I'm fearful, I think, definitely. As like a sort of more naturally introverted person, I feel that, well, it's nice, you know, it's been nice not to have to rush to the kids groups and not have to go to parties and not to have, you know, those sort of things. Like I am a fairly social introvert, you know, I do enjoy getting out and going to parties, but actually it's just been nice to have the break and to just be a family together.
If you're trying to like win back time that's already gone, and all the possible meetings and all these people who have postponed birthdays, and they're going to, I'm going to celebrate this on this day, because what do you do when the actual new birthday? Do you have like a birthday party for last year and then another birthday party for this year? Or
yes, Rachel,
hard. I feel sorry for you.
Exactly what you do.
Would. Definitely do. I'm not coming to it.
Yes, what's the problem with that? So Esther, one of the ones we've got here is like, the first thing is to feel that fear that you just said and do it anyway. So how have you thought of that at all? How you're going to feel that anxiety of coming out, but yet actually being able to do it? Have you thought about that, or are you just blocking out?
I think it's definitely taking it at stages, isn't it? You know, like we don't need to give up on the online stuff straight away. You know, we can carry on doing that for a while. We've still got quite a while to go before we're actually hopefully out and about more, and we can just do it in stages, you know. So we've been doing a little bit of going a bit further afield rather than just walking in our neighborhood. We've maybe driven somewhere and gone for a little bit of a further walk, and it's just taking those steps, isn't it, and taking it one step at a time. And but then just doing it as well, you know, meeting up with one friend, going for a walk can be a step to meeting up when we're allowed with a group of people, you know, outside. So I think, just doing it slowly and doing it, feeling that fear and getting out there and doing it.
Yeah, I think practically taking steps to doing that is good, isn't it? It's like getting the kids now. I've got a schedule of which one goes back on which day next week. I've noticed one of the schools that I follow on Twitter is doing a countdown to back to school. And yesterday's it was, try your school shoes on. And if you need to order new school shoes, try it. So I thought that's maybe the good way to teach our kids as well, is to just put it in manageable chunks, because although they're massively excited, I know mine have got a bit of anxiety about it too. Just that sense of like, it's our kids have been born into this time period because God knows they can cope with it. Same for us. We've been born into being who we are because God knows we can cope with it right now in this time period. So like take that on and be bold and courageous in that. And you know, I just think if we break it into stages, the other day I felt my brain was so completely stressy that I had to write stuff down, and I had to write down like what was going on, because every time I thought of doing something in the future and trying to plan when I'd see my mum and dad and when we'd go away, when we'd go and stay in hotels, I couldn't remember. So I actually put out on I printed out a calendar. You can get lots of free printable calendars, and I wrote at the top, step 1, April, step 2, and I've put what's happening supposedly in each time.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when it changes. You have to go back and reprint it.
I know. I feel like I don't look at my online calendar at all anymore. No. So the very few appointments that I do have, I've actually missed because I'm not even checking on there. But I am sitting at this desk with homeschooling stuff all the time. So I thought if I at least do that, I know it's a bit old school, but I used to do it when the kids were littler, and it helps me explain to them what's going on and when. So I feel like doing that in stages, getting your outfits together in stages. Like I even today had a meltdown over what on earth do you wear on this kind of thing, because I put nice things on and it felt like I was going for a job interview, and I just thought I looked way too overdressed. And then it was just that sense of like, what shoes do you wear with this? Like I've just been wearing flat shoes the whole.
I'm sat here in a dress, but I've got my slippers on.
Lots of room.
Nice roomy dress with my slippers on, because it's like that. It's that sort of, it's transitioning slowly, isn't it?
What you're saying about for the kids and like getting their school shoes out and just doing that and writing it down on a calendar, I think is really helpful, because I do feel like I've just been putting my head in the sand and trying to, you know, like if I think about it, I feel overwhelmed and a bit panicky. So actually just doing those stages and having it written down, I think is really helpful.
Yeah. Like Esther said, that fear of going out and stuff. A few years ago when my husband was really poorly, I had this massive fear about walking into Tesco's, massive fear, because I thought if I meet someone and they ask me a question about Pete, who was in hospital at the time, I could either tell them every single detail which they don't actually want to know and bore them, and actually they're only asking because they're being polite, or I could break down in tears, or so like I just didn't know how I was going to cope if I met someone. That the idea of meeting someone and seeing someone in Tesco's, it brought like a real sort of sense of like worry to me. So once a week I want you to go down to Tesco's and I need you to rehearse what you're going to say to people. So if it's just someone you know from school, you just have to say whatever that line is. It could be something like, yes, he's been in hospital, but he's home now. That might be all the information that person needs. To somebody else who you know quite well, it could be, it's been a really difficult day, but I'm okay. You know, because I found like when I went to Tesco's, rather than going up and down the aisles trying to find people to talk to, which is what I do normally when I go to Tesco's, it's like, oh, we definitely need to go down the aisle. I've not spoken to that person for a while. I was doing the absolute opposite. I was like hiding behind the clothes in the clothes section in Tesco's. And
that's what a lot of people do every day normally.
That's what I do.
Right, well, unlike you two, I did like doing it, but in that time of fear and worry, it really helped having the answers to say to people. So one thing I'm trying to do with this stage is when people say to me, Rhiannon, can you do this? Rhiannon, what about this? Rhiannon, this, or, you know, what do you feel okay? Are you going to come and do this? Now I say to myself things like, oh, I'm going to have to check my calendar because I've not got it on my phone anymore, like Rachel just said, or, you know what, at the moment we're taking things really slowly. So I'll get back to you. So rather than having someone ask you something straight away, because there will be those lambs out there who are desperate to get you out in that field with them. And people aren't offended when you say, I'm really sorry, at the moment I don't feel comfortable with that. They're like, that's fine.
We're doing a vlog series at the minute that's all about Esther and very much taking on courage and looking at how to stand in courage. And I feel like we all need to take stock of where we've got to over this year. Who are we and who do we want to be? And I think I read a comment on somebody's Instagram messages the other day, and it said, I'm wavering between cautiously optimistic, not wanting to get too excited, and worrying about the increased pressures as life speeds up again. So I thought it was a good summary of what we've just been talking about. But there was also somebody had put a thing on about being sort of like well-being stuff, and it was talking about emotionally safe people, and it gave 8 things that they are like. They admit when they're wrong, communicate how they feel, validate how you feel, they're consistent, they allow you to be yourself, they're kind, they respect your boundaries, and they're good listeners. And I kind of thought, gosh, I really want to be all of those things to people when I come out, and I will be searching for people that are like that. I'm not saying we put to one side the people who are having a much harder time and who aren't exactly like that, because that's who we can be there for and stuff. I feel like it's important if we hold on to some of those things that we value and make sure we project those onto other people. So I thought maybe before you sort of open the doors to people coming back into your house, and before we get to sort of middle of April, May time when we can start seeing people more, maybe save the best bits of lockdown, save the things that have made you feel a better person, a more grounded person. If you've done quite well sharing the tasks through the day at home, then try and keep up with that. Plan who do you want to be? Because I just can't remember which bits I actually like of real life and which bits I'm most scared of going back to.
Like, I'm so desperate to go wild swimming.
You see, that's the thing, you want to be a wild swimmer, so next time we see you, you'll have like flippers, goggles, one of those cool hats.
Just another way to be alone.
Yeah.
It's just so cold. No one's going to follow you or join you on that actual activity, Esther. Do you know what I mean? That's the problem. It's just so cold either. So go on, Rachel, very fast. Give us your give us the countdown. Go.
This is our top 5 tips for transitioning back to a normal life. First of all, we said have it as a gradual transition. So don't expect to suddenly be okay with a big weekend full of events and parties as soon as we can do that. We talked about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. So if it's something that's not natural to you, you're struggling to cope with the idea of being back in society in a normal way, then maybe just do little steps with people you know are going to also feel similar to you rather than feeling overwhelmed by that. Yeah. Rhiannon talked about rehearsing your answer. So make sure that you have prepared something you're happy with saying when you run into people. Don't panic. Obviously, it's that awkward thing of suddenly we'll be able to hug people, and some people feel really uncomfortable with that too. So just sort of like go at it calmly. Make sure you've got some things that you can give as answers if people are saying how you're doing. You don't need to make it up on the spot. We talked about choosing your priorities before others choose your priorities for you. So go through a calendar and write on, okay, I want to see people on this week because I feel that that's a good time for all of us as a family that we've got out. I want to book something in then. I want to decide this, create a timetable, and also have a time scale of getting ready for those events and counting down to those things, just down to even choosing your outfits and your shoes and that kind of thing. And then fifthly, we said choose who you want to be if you've created new routines and healthy times in lockdown. So save the best bits of lockdown, take on board those things I talked about, being emotionally safe people. You might be able to think of an actual person now who's really good at validating your opinions, that makes you feel like you'd said the right thing rather than saying a stupid thing. So try and be that type of person to people and kind of practice doing that with your friends.
And I think finally, it's just understanding those different lambs.
If you are someone who's like leaping out and ready to go and raring to go, then get going. Love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, but also be considerate of the person behind who maybe doesn't want to fill their diary, or and keep an eye out for the people who might need a kick to get out of their situation, you know, definitely. So, well, it's been nice chatting, girls. It's been really, really nice chatting to you all. So see everybody.